Welcome to another episode of Tangy Talks here with Steve Turk and Victor Feria. Victor, hey man, it's 2024. We made it into the new year with a busy last end of the year, but
Oh
I'm
yeah,
happy to be back with you, man.
same here. Same here, Steve. It's was a great 2023. I think a lot of things learned, a lot of new and great ideas that came from 2023. So I'm excited for what 2024 has ahead for us.
Yeah, guys, we it's been basically a couple of weeks since we talked to you, about 2 weeks, but we went through our Christmas and holiday crazy time here in South Florida and also our other homes in Georgia and South Carolina. And we prepped up, like we did meetings to prepare, and we thought we had everything perfectly done. And even when you are prepared and you talk it and you know it's going to be crazy, things happen. And
Uh,
Victor, what do you think? Like, what were some things that we look back and are like, man, we didn't expect that to happen. How could we have prevented that? Was there anything in your head? Because there's a couple I've got.
yeah, I mean 2023, the ending of 2023, these last 2 weeks. I mean, that's hospitality for you, right? You think you prepared, and you've crossed your T's, dotted your I's, but not necessarily is it always that way. As much as you prepare, but I think the one that comes out right away is supplies for me. We set up our supplies for the last 2 weeks, but we had so much turnaround. And one thing that I saw that I previous years never really saw in that sense was last minute bookings. We
Mm-hmm.
had a ton of last minute bookings, and those supplies, what we thought and we were pacing with those reservations we already had on the books, we doubled those. So quickly, we noticed and realized, okay, let's get those orders in because we were running low. So that was one thing for sure. 2024 will not happen again.
Yeah, and the other thing too, listeners and viewers, depending where you're watching this, is man, the weather kind of snuck up on us too. Like we had these like rogue storms that would cause some issues with either some flooding or would knock down structures at these homes that we had in perfect condition. And then guests showing up the day after the storm, and we're like trying to get these things all set up. So it just goes to show you guys, you can have the plan, you can execute that plan, but like Mike Tyson says, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the
Yeah.
face. And
Yep.
so we were able to adjust. Our team was on it, and so just I'm proud of how we finished the year. So for our team, proud of you guys, and for Victor, who runs the day to day, I was. Guys, listeners, I'm more on the outside of this. He runs day to day, so I was looking. We use Slack to control all the messages, so it was just hundreds of messages in there of getting things done that guests needed. But a lot of good reviews. Kept our superhost status on all the properties, so it was great to see.
That was great, and definitely to the team. You really couldn't do it without them. It was a hard 2 weeks, and that's really where all of that camaraderie and all of that chemistry and everything that you built throughout really shows. Because you just gotta kind of put up your sleeves and get to work. It was a good fun 2 weeks.
Well, you went out of town, man. Like, where did you go? Do you have anything that kind of ties back to some experiences we can share?
Yeah, I went. Me and my wife, we wanted to close out the year. Went to Dominican Republic, Punta Cana. We've never been, and that was our first time. Haven't taken a trip since we had our baby, our 8-month-old baby. So we said, let's leave the baby with the grandparents and try to end the year on a nice and positive note and de-stress. But it was a great time. I think my highlight for sure was a Jeep excursion that we took. So we rented basically a 4x4. They picked us up, and we toured several areas in Punta Cana. We started off in a coffee and a chocolate farm where they took us through all of the areas and the farms. They let us try the coffees. They let us make and ground the coffee, which was a pretty neat experience. And then lastly, we ended up like in a cigar farm as well, where we were able to roll our own cigars, see how they make it, the processes, and everything that takes and that goes into taking and making all of this. And it was a great experience. I think if we would do it down here in South Florida, Miami, I think we would definitely partner with some airboat companies, and do certain things like that. Maybe some take our guests to several Latin inspired restaurants and show them kind of like what how or the multicultures that we have down here and how it works. And I think that's something that I took out of it that made me think a lot about our own guests and possible experiences for them.
Yeah, because we use like a local concierge, but we don't see many people booking it. Like we have the QR code there for local experiences. And for listeners, I would love to see what you think if you send us a message. Um, how we can get our guests to use more experiences because we think they would have a great time doing them. I know a lot of people like planning their own stuff or just hanging at our homes. But I agree with you, right? You are a millennial, correct?
Correct.
I'm on the oldest part of the millennial. So, but still, millennials and Gen Z, the biggest reports are they want experiences. It's not
Oh
just
yeah,
stuff. And I saw it with my own kids during the holidays. Like Santa came and brought them all their toys, and then they were like done after a couple hours playing with them, and they're like, let's go do
what's
something,
next?
right?
Right.
And I talked to my daughter, and she's like, "Yeah, I'd rather just go travel." She's in second grade. She's like, "I'd rather go travel
Yeah.
than get as many toys from Santa next year. I'm gonna ask him for a trip." I was like,
There you go.
"I like that." So I agree. I think we should focus more and more on that this year. And for listeners out there, how are you doing that for your guests? Even if you have one property or you have hundreds of properties, this is going to be a big trend that is happening is people want to experience new and unique things, especially if it has any cultural relevance or it's uniquely local to that spot. Like you were in Dominican Republic and got to go see where they're making chocolate and coffee and jeep tours to the jungles. Like you're in Jurassic Park, you know, you're
It's
having a good
exactly
time
how
out
I
there,
felt. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. That's I think that's a great way of putting it. It's definitely all about experiences, right? It's what you take home. It's all those memories. I like to when I get back on the plane, I like to scroll through all the pictures that me and my wife took, and kind of reminisce on those photos and those moments, and then share them. Get back and share them with a family, with friends. So hopefully they can do it too. So that's part
man.
of it. That's really part of it.
And I stayed in a bunch of different places, but during the holidays, I took a weekend. We stayed in Washington D.C. at a hotel. But something I learned from them, which was great, they did their pre-planning before we got there and asked who's coming, what are you coming for, what are their ages,
That's awesome.
and they surprised us with some great amenities and just something we can always learn in vacation rental is asking some of those questions beforehand. And they had some dolls that cost them maybe $1 or two waiting for them and said, "Hey, here's the monkey and the turtle, and they're waiting for you to have a great time here." And they're still playing with them as soon as we got home. So
That's awesome. That's
a
so
lot of
thought.
good things that we can learn. I,
Yeah,
I, I want to see if we can do that in some of our premier homes.
and I had asked you, what was your favorite part about Washington, and you mentioned Georgetown, right?
Yeah, Georgetown, the area of Georgetown was awesome. Just walking around there and seeing all the little places and all these boutique shops. I wish they had more of that here in Miami or Miami Beach. We used to with Lincoln Road, but
Right.
that's kind of changed.
Yeah,
But
that's very cool.
yeah. Anyway, sorry to bore you listeners with our vacations that we've had, but we learned some cool things. Let's get into some vacation rental news. And man, this is a pretty big story of of course, it's always here in Miami. A Miami man was indicted because he was stealing $8.5 million in a short term rental scam, tricking people into booking homes, taking their money, and basically canceling without returning money. He says he's not doing it, but I don't know. The evidence looks pretty strong against him. And so, Victor, maybe not to talk about him because it's still playing out in the news, but it's pretty easy to scam people. We've seen across Airbnb and VRBO and
Right.
Booking.
Right.
If you're a guest, let's talk about it as a guest first, and
Right.
you're coming to book a beautiful home and you think it's all good, how can you protect yourself?
Yeah, I think asking, the right questions, asking the details, double checking, going through reviews, maybe doing some online searches yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I shared a personal story, Steve, within the company. The first 2 years of us starting the company, we had a property that a guest, sent us a message and said, "Hey, we have, a family here that is outside the door," and they said that they made a reservation for the same exact property. I ran over there to see what was going on, and they showed me their phone. It looked like they went off of a website and made a reservation. And it seems like whoever it was figured out the address of our property, took the photos, took all the descriptions, and made a duplicate property. And that family, we felt horrible. We offered them, other alternatives, other properties, but basically rushed them and told them, "Hey, call your call your credit card company, try to make a note and ensure you get that money back, because that was definitely a scam." So I think asking the right questions, doing your searches online, maybe even calling and try to get somebody on the phone and
Mm-hmm.
asking those questions over the phone. I think you could get a lot by those questions. and ensuring that that place that you're going to be staying in is who they are. We don't want those bad actors, but these things happen.
No, it's true. And so there's 100 things you could say here. Like I would tell people a lot of times, like if it's a new property, make
Right.
sure you're booking it directly through Airbnb or VRBO, so at least they can help you if something goes down,
Exactly.
right? Because
Exactly.
on their platform, don't book outside on like a Craigslist, right, or any of these kind of like shady channels. And if you're booking direct, make sure it's a real company. You can look them up and see if they have like a real business license and they're a
Exactly.
real company and they have a social media presence like Tangy Talks, and you can know who they are,
Or
right?
Sundays,
Because
you said it.
yeah, just make sure they actually have a real business because there's so many companies out there that just sad. They're trying to do some bad things and make our industry look bad. I wouldn't say so many, but there are bad actors and they get the headlines and it scares everybody away. But if you're a property owner, we see this too. We try to get scammed all the time, right? And so there's people trying to use all different kind of ways to sneak into our homes without paying. How do we protect owners? Or if you're like a one single property owner just getting started, how could they protect themselves?
I mean, really, you just gotta make sure, if you're using websites outside of Airbnb and Verbo, Airbnb does a great job at ensuring, the method of payments are, actual, and the person who is booking is the person who say they are. But if you're booking outside of Airbnb and Verbo, or booking.coms, or all these other booking channels that you're actually collecting, these credit cards, make sure you're getting IDs. Make sure, when you're collecting these credit cards, that you're matching the ID with the credit card. We go through several basically processes and several steps to ensure that those credit cards and the people who are paying for these reservations are who they are. And I think the best way is just triple double checking. And I would sometimes, and I think I highly recommend, going away from last minute bookings. Usually those are the ones, our past experience, those are the ones that you really need to keep your eyes peeled for.
Yeah, especially if you can take the last minute booking, ask the questions. If they're locals and sometimes you have some properties that are just like one nighters that you want to make sure they're not going to like destroy your place for one night
Right.
because they're trying to party. Get that identification as best you can, because in a hotel like where we used to work, there is a front desk. You have to check in. You get the ID. We get the credit card. We can do all that beforehand. So in vacation rentals, it's a lot more challenging, and so you have to be vigilant because I remember when we first started, there was a couple times we got whacked. It was like, and you're out $3,000. You got to make sure tell the owner like, hey, we did everything we could, but now the tools are a little bit better. We are very strict on making sure we have everyone's information. And we've called the police a couple times, especially when it's those last minute ones.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, save yourself from the hard the times, and that those embarrassing moments of having to actually go and knock on the doors and trying to collect payment from guests, and do that work, prehand. Because yeah, there's definitely a lot of people out there trying to get their free stays. So all of these processes, and if you have people in your team, train them, sit down with them, show them, how it works, and learn from past experiences. I think the processes that we've created and we have in place right now is because we've gotten dinged, once or twice. And we say to ourselves, all right, that happened once, well, can we learn from it? And that's how you start creating. I say a lot of rules and a lot of things that are put in place aren't put in place, just because of thin air. Most likely these things happen in the past, and it's how you learn from it and how you recoup.
Yeah, it's true, man. So if you're out there, look, don't be scared. Just follow the checklist and make sure that you're doing things the right way, especially if you're inviting guests into your house. And if you're staying and it's your first couple times, go to places that have a lot of reviews. You can actually see that people are staying there. And if it's a new place that really has a good deal, try to get some conversations going. Make sure they're a real company, because look, we are adding new homes all the time. They don't have reviews, but we make sure that we have guests that can see that we're a real place, real company, and we'll take good care of them.
For sure.
All right. Well, listen, guys, next, we want to make sure that we talk about some best practices, because the year is just kicking off. And if you haven't done these things yet, you have a chance to catch up. And the first big part is making sure, as you're a management company or an owner, or just have your own little place where you're renting out your room, you want to make sure you're checking your rates. And so, Victor, what are some best practices that we actually started doing last year to prepare for this year?
Right. So now this year, I feel like we're getting really good at predicting. we just finished our meeting last week where we closed out 2023, and we took a lot of 2023. I think a lot of people in 2023 learned from the year itself. So right now, we use a great tool on Guesty. It's Guesty Analytics, where there's a lot of history that you can go back on and see where you are, a year, 2 years before, and are better able to predict. Now in January, our slower months are August, September, and October,
In
and
South
now in
Florida.
January, right, in South Florida, and now we're actually in January looking out, towards those months and looking out to those rates, and making sure that those rates are according to the actual months itself. And we are looking at pacing, and ensuring that those these next 3 months, which is our high season, January, February, March here in South Florida, those are the adequate rates. We use great tools. One tool in specific is Beyond Pricing, that helps us immensely. And then having those meetings, we have these one-on-ones weekly where we're going property by property, and predicting and making rules and going into the settings and ensuring that all of those rates and the rules and the one night stays, the 2 night stays, everything is in place. So I think right now it's a great time to do it.
And for listeners who are just starting and you don't know, Guesty, that's a property management software that we use to kind of connect to all of our tools. And Beyond Pricing is what helps us change our rates hour by hour, but we're setting the strategy for that tool to make sure that we are maximizing the rates for our properties and for our client properties to make sure that everyone's making their money. But if you haven't started yet, right now, get one of these tools to help you, because if you're just keeping the rates, like there's still people that drive me crazy. They just have a flat rate for every single day for all this, their quarter or their month, and are leaving a lot of money on the table, but they're just happy doing it that way. So don't be that person. Put a little extra effort in each week and you will get a return on that. So make sure you're checking your rates and you're not just looking at this month, that you're looking out 3, 6, 9, and 12 months to see where you're at. Especially as you grow and you start getting into the hundreds of properties or into the 50 properties or even over 10 properties, you want to be able to know where you're going to be. That way you can check your expenses, how to schedule things for your team. So if they want to go on vacation or do something to have their own personal life, you can plan these things. So make sure you're staying on top of that. So that was great advice, Victor. And for you all out there, listen to that. But the other thing too is not just getting the revenue in. You got to watch your expenses. And we did a great job at this year. And our slow months here in South Florida, especially, is August through November. And in August, we sat down and looked at all of our contracts. And what did we do, Victor?
Yeah, we went right into the contracts and we renegotiated every single one of them. It was a great opportunity. We started doing that right in August, to look at the contracts and seeing where, there might be services that you might be overspending, or there might be services that you're not utilizing to its fullest, and that might be something that you don't actually need. So we saw, we were able to shave off thousands of dollars in overhead month by month, by renegotiating with every single vendor. They're open to, obviously listening to your story and ensuring that you're a happy customer, and more than anything, that you are doing well as a business. Is obviously, that the last thing they want is for you to have a challenge, especially from what they charge, in your overhead. So renegotiate, have those conversations, and see if you can lower those that overhead.
Yeah, because I would tell you, don't be embarrassed. Like the first thing sometimes people feel like, oh, I signed the contract for a year. I don't know if I should bring it up right now. Get that out of your head. Your job is to make sure your company is healthy. You want to make sure that you are doing what's best for you, your team, your family. And if you have to switch companies, maybe that's a move you have to do. But you want to make sure that you're not getting also price gouged, because a lot of the companies on the other side, their job is to make as much money as possible. Right. So try to renegotiate, especially when you're going into your slow season, if you could do it beforehand, because it will be all the difference of you having super challenging year or a very successful year. We see it clear. Like you mentioned, it's many, many, many percentage points better for us. And it allows us to do more things and buy the tools our team needs and to hire the people that we need to hire and invest. So don't be afraid to ask. I promise you. The worst thing they could do is say no. We haven't got any of those.
Right.
So, and we
Right.
did it
Right.
with many, many vendors,
Right.
especially if you're professional and do it the right way.
Absolutely. Yeah,
All right.
you'd be very surprised. And like you said, it really does make a difference. And you could ask around. You could ask other management companies if you have other friends in the industry, and see what they're doing and see what they're paying. I think a lot of the times we learned that some of the services we were overpaying by just speaking to other people.
Yep.
So that's where you can really get ahead, and have a great year.
Yes, and you said, look, I don't know where to look. There's plenty of places to look for those kind of things. I don't know anybody else. You can get on X. So I'm gonna start calling it X this year instead of Twitter. You can get on Threads because now they have tags based off of
Right.
where you want to look into, whether it's hospitality or vacation rentals. There's tools out there to ask people, but then conferences, the right ones. We're testing out a new one next week. Actually, Victor, or this week, Victor's going. And listen, I messed up my ankle, so I can't walk
Oh.
around the conferences. I'm waiting on my little scooter, my knee scooter.
You got a man down, but yeah, I'm gonna miss you, Steve. But I'm excited to see, what this conference is all about. We heard good stories and good things about it. It's in Aventura and Turnberry, and I
Yep.
think
IMN Short-Term Rental Forum. So it's their second year, but there's a lot of great people who will be there. So
right.
if you're there, let us know, and we'll see you there. So, but yes, connect with people. All right, we've talked about some best practices. I want to talk about a little bit of I don't want to say it's a rant, maybe it's a review, but I think it could help people out there. So we talked about our travels, but for listeners out there, we also do consulting for vacation rentals and hotels, especially boutique hotels. And this past, I'm not going to say when because I don't want to give too much detail on it, but I stayed in a boutique hotel, and they have 3 penthouse suites. And those penthouse suites are apartments, not like the regular hotel rooms there. And it's a historic hotel. And when I stayed there, it's a vacation rental. You have washer dryer, full kitchen, balcony, multiple bedrooms, living room, dining room. So it was pretty cool. Upon first entry, you're like, wow, this is a really nice place. You got ocean views. But then you start looking around once you sit down, like once you sit down and you start to like be in a place, you're like,
Right.
all right, all the walls are dirty. This furniture really doesn't mix and match very well. It looks like it was kind of a storage. They have a beautiful terrace with furniture that was rusty and broken, and they're sold out. They were wondering why the reviews weren't as good as it should be. They were getting $5,000 a night because of the location that it's in.
Incredible.
And man, it's just little details that if they just fixed it, like frayed carpet. And I get it's a vintage look. They want a historic vibe. And if you have that kind of look out there, you can do it. You can mix and match things, but you have to make sure that paint is not peeling off of stuff, that there is some kind of theme in that place. It can't look like your grandmother just went to the storage unit and started throwing things out there. So anyhow, that's my rant here. But for Victor, like when we walk into homes, we walk into a lot of people's homes that think they're ready to be a vacation rental or to be a short-term rental. What are some things you would tell people that is the difference between having your grandma's home who you want to rent out versus a successful vacation rental?
Yeah, and I'll start it off with that question that we always ask each other, which I think it's the perfect question because it really makes you think and ponder. But would your mom stay here? Would your mom stay? Would you be proud or excited for your mom to stay at that property? You ask yourself that question first and be honest with yourself. If it's a no, you wouldn't have your mom stay there. Then really look into it. But like what you said, see the layout, see what you have available in the property. Like Steve said, you can mix and match things, but ensuring that there's a flow and that there's a look and that things, if they're look a little, wear and tear, maybe there's something else that you can do to repair it. Maybe you can replace it. There's, a lot of stores out there that you can get furniture and you can get things really, really inexpensive and make it really pop out. With a lot of our properties, I don't know if you recall, Steve, like about a year and a half ago, we started going property by property and just starting to pick up like little knickknacks and just completely changing the look of that property. My wife and I, we would go to Hobby Lobby and we would just, load our carts full of items and, little knickknacks can go such a long way in just making a room pop.
The right ones, listeners, the right
The right,
knickknacks.
the right ones. So you'd
Not
be
a not shelves filled with creepy porcelain dolls staring at you
not
in the
that,
middle of the night.
no, not that at all. But you'd be surprised on how you can make a property pop out with just such little things, and such little details and colors, and really you can make a lot out of very little. So I think that would be my best tip and advice.
It's true, and we started asking ourselves this because look, we wanted to grow, and we were taking on properties that just became headaches, and we weren't asking that question of would our mom actually stay here. And when we went by them, we were like, absolutely not. We need to shed. We're going to shed these and pick the right ones, and we've stuck to that. And we've been really strategizing for the right properties to bring in because we don't own any of them at this point. There's some talks potentially doing that, but we manage all of the ones that we have, and
Right.
we tell our property owners because they think they're just going to get in, flip a switch, make money. It's like,
No, doesn't work
no,
that way.
it doesn't work that way. You got to get rid of the stuff that you think that's your style. It scares some people sometimes. So we want to make sure that we can maximize it the best we can for you.
Exactly. And I think we also have something with us, and it's our hospitality eyes. I mean, we do it all the time. We'll go to a restaurant and have just, lunch, and we just start looking around and picking things out. I guess it's a curse and a good thing.
Yep.
But if you have that, it's even better, because, that's right there where you can decipher and critique your own self and be honest, right?
I think so. And so I want to ask you this. We didn't plan this beforehand behind, but if there was a design trend that you think is going to be happening this year, is there something that comes to mind, like right off the bat, like something that's like, hey, this is going to be what's going forward versus what it is those last couple of years?
That's a good question. There's a lot of opportunities and possibilities you can go. I think going chic, like a modern chic, where things are not, items don't have to be very expensive. As a guest comes in and breaks them, they could be easily replaceable. But going that modern chic style, I think really pops a room. Really, marketing and the photos really makes it stand out, and it's not expensive.
Yep.
What do you think?
I think that people are tired of the ones that all kind of look the same. Where
Right.
It's like they're really a hotel, but they're not a hotel and they don't have the design of a hotel. I think things like those would benefit from having some warm touches. Like maybe
Okay.
it is
I like that.
some books that are in the property that
Yeah.
are unique to that location, or some decor and local artwork. Like we have a great property that we just picked up that has like local artwork and has those knickknacks, but they're like local hand carved wood things, and
And follow a theme.
yeah, and it follows a theme and has a little library and a study. Like it makes you feel like, yeah, it's not just an empty house with nothing on the shelves, because
Exactly.
that's become one of my pet peeves. So we have to look at our homes. Like we have some homes that the owners just have like these big bookshelves with nothing on them and they're just empty. So like, what can we do to give it some life and some warmth? Because I think now people see like there's so many of these companies that started up, raised a bunch of money, bought a bunch of IKEA furniture, Target furniture, and they all look the same now. We can see them, right? Like when we look at listings, like that's a vacation rental from this company. That's a vacation rental from this company. It's very clear.
Good for IKEA, but not so great for vacation rental.
No, right? You get IKEA furniture, you get IKEA prices. We're going to keep
There you
saying
go.
that over and over again. So, look, we've got a lot of things coming up here, exciting in January. But for listeners who are just starting out, this is their first year. They just decided, all right, I'm launching my vacation rental. What's a tip that you've got for them to start 2024 off on the right foot?
Yeah, so you're starting your vacation rental. Definitely look at your markets. Go online and do your research. There's so much stuff now online. You could even use Chat GPT to really give you great ideas.
Yep.
But really know your market, know your competitors. I say start a mood board. Go on Airbnb in your location, pick out 5-6 properties that you love and that are super hosts and then you see have great reviews. Print out those photos and say, you know what, this is my mood board. These are the 5 properties that I love the most. Have the super host status and look the best and guest love. And I want to make it look like that. Go there, know your market, know what you want in your design, your theme. Think about those experiences. Think about the guests. Put yourself in their shoes, and then ask that question: would your mom stay here?
Ooh, I like it. Well, look, man, we've done 30 minutes of our show. We say we always want to leave you with more, and I think that's a great place to end the show today. Listeners, thank you for taking the time to join us today. Make sure to subscribe, comment, and like, and we'll see you again next week.
Till next time.